All right, let's dive into something a little different today. What if the best political leaders weren't the ones who paint these grand, sweeping visions for us? What if instead they were more like sculptors, using questions to chip away at things and reveal the truth? That's the core idea behind what we're calling the Socratic candidate.
So it all kicks off with this one fascinating thought experiment. Imagine a political leader, someone we expect to sell us this amazing vision of the future. But what if they literally couldn't see it? In their own mind. What kind of leader would that person even be then?
Okay, so to really get that, we first have to talk about the way things usually work. Let's call this first part the leader's vision, or the politician as a painter.
I mean, we all know this model, right? We completely expect our leaders to paint this beautiful picture of a better tomorrow, to basically sell us a dream. And this whole approach, it really hinges on creating these super powerful mental images, using all this vivid language to get us on board.
And you've heard lines just like this a million times. It's that classic political soundbite for a reason. It uses this really strong metaphor, a bridge to a brighter future, and that builds an emotional connection. But often, there are zero concrete details behind it.
But what if the leader just couldn't use that visual playbook? What if their brain just doesn't operate that way? Well, this brings us to a really interesting condition known as aphantasia. So what exactly is aphantasia? Put simply, it's when someone can't voluntarily create mental images. You know that mind's eye people talk about? For someone with aphantasia, it's essentially blind. They think, but they think in concepts, in facts, in words, just not in pictures. And that brings us right back to our central puzzle. If a leader can't see that perfect future, if they can't even visualize that bridge they're talking about, how on earth are they supposed to inspire anyone else to believe in it? The old playbook is totally useless for them. Well, the answer might not come from modern politics at all, but from way back in ancient philosophy. It gives us a totally new metaphor for what a leader could be. Not a painter, but a midwife of ideas. A leader who doesn't tell you things, but asks.
And the difference here is just, wow, it's night and day. The painter leader, they create the image and they tell you exactly what you're supposed to see. But the midwife leader, they help you find your own ideas. One is selling you a finished product, while the other is guiding you through a process of discovery.
This whole concept is called intellectual midwifery, and it actually comes from the philosopher Socrates. See, he believed his job wasn't to shove knowledge into people's heads. Instead, it was to help them give birth to the truths and ideas they already had inside them. And he did it all through really careful, structured questions.
Okay, so how does this intellectual midwifery actually work in the real world, especially in, say, a fiery political debate? Well, it all comes down to deconstructing logic, using what's known as the Socratic method.
And this is absolutely crucial. The goal isn't for this leader to present their vision. The whole point is to use questions to systematically pick apart an opponent's argument, to expose all the hidden assumptions, the logical mistakes, and maybe even some manipulation.
And the process itself is surprisingly straightforward. First, you just isolate the main argument. Then, you start digging around for the assumptions it's built on. After that, you test the whole thing with some targeted questions until, finally, you expose where it contradicts itself.
All right, let's put this into practice. Remember that political promise from earlier? That beautiful, inspiring bridge to a brighter future?
Okay, now watch what happens when we throw the Socratic method at it. Instead of just nodding along and accepting the pretty image, this new type of leader starts asking questions that pull it apart. What's this bridge made of? Are we talking about concrete policies here? Where exactly does it lead? Who's paying for this thing? And maybe, the biggest one, who gets to cross it? Suddenly, that vague image is forced to become a real plan.
And this exact method is what gives rise to a whole new kind of leader, the Socratic candidate, someone who leads not with pictures, but with questions.
So let's just lay it all out, side by side. The visionary leader, they paint a picture. The Socratic leader, they deconstruct the picture. One offers you this perfect utopian future, the other demands a logical, workable present. It's a huge shift from relying on imagery to relying on inquiry.
And the real-world impact of this style is massive. A Socratic candidate forces the entire political conversation to change. It stops being about some vague, dreamy what-if in the future, and it becomes all about the specific, accountable how and why right here, right now.
So that really leaves us with a big question to think about. What do we really need in a leader? Do we want someone who comes with a prepackaged vision they need to sell us on? Or do we want someone who gives us the tools to pick apart the world's complexities so we can all build a better future together?